Hi everyone, I'm back at Toronto's Pearson Airport today for an absolutely crazy day. I'm heading from Toronto to Vancouver and back on the same day. That's 5 hours out to the west coast of Canada, attending my meeting, and then hopping back on a plane and trying to get back into Toronto before the end of the day. In this video, we'll cover the arrival into Toronto Pearson in the morning, a brief stop after security in the Maple Leaf Lounge to grab some breakfast, followed by a walkthrough of the domestic pier before boarding our Air Canada Boeing 787-8 for a thunderous takeoff from Toronto and a torrential downpour in Vancouver when we land. Do you love aviation, photography, or traveling? If so, you're at the right place. Please subscribe to the channel for weekly trip reports and travel vlogs. Winter in Canada means cold weather, but it also means very long nights. So when I arrived at Toronto Pearson Airport in the morning, it was still dark. Inside the terminal building though, with its huge curved ceiling, the bright lights, and the Christmas decorations, it was quite inviting. Having done my check-in online and having no bags to drop, it was straight past the check-in counters to the security line. The lineup wasn't too bad, and it was moving fairly quickly. Immediately following security, before you go down the escalators to the departure gates, on the left is the Maple Leaf Lounge, and on the right is the Plaza Premium Lounge. Today I'm headed to the Maple Leaf Lounge to grab breakfast. Entrance to the lounge is automated via the use of scanners, where you just put your boarding pass on top and the gates will open. The lounge this morning was quite busy, with most of the seats taken, so I had to take a couple of laps before I could find a spot to park myself. A full lounge review will be coming in another video soon, but for now, here's my very quick breakfast. After breakfast, I made my way down to the departure gate level to get some steps in before sitting on a plane for the next 5 hours. Pier D at Toronto Pearson has 20 gates, but 7 of those gates, located behind the glass partition to the left, can be closed off and used for US flights. Underneath the high ceiling of the pier, there's a number of restaurants, shops, and other services available to the traveler as they wait for their flight. At the very end of the pier, there's a really cool paper airplane sculpture hanging overhead. If you're in this part of Pearson, definitely try Boccone. They're one of my faves and have excellent pizza and paninis. It was getting close to boarding time and my gate was at the other end of the terminal, so it was time to head back. But not before a quick stop at Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory for a sweet treat. There's also a little movie theater to keep the little ones entertained while you wait for your flight. Finally, I arrived at my gate D24 just as the gate agents were asking for folks to volunteer to check in their carry-on items before boarding, as this was a very full flight out to Vancouver this morning. My ride out to Vancouver this morning is on one of 8 Air Canada Boeing 787-8 Dreamliners. These are configured with 255 seats, 20 being in business, 21 in premium economy, and 214 in economy class, where I'll be sitting for this flight. My seat today is 36K, a window seat behind the wing. I quite like the 333 configuration of the Boeing 787s. It feels more spacious than the 343 configuration on Air Canada's 777s. In front of me is Air Canada's in-flight entertainment system, which I recently reviewed and you can watch at the link above. Below the screen, the standard headphone jack, USB connection, as well as universal charging ports below the seats, and the basic tray table. The legroom, however, was quite tight. Hopefully I won't be too cramped and will be able to sleep a little before I get out to Vancouver for my meeting. While waiting for the aircraft beside us to push back first, I noticed that the IFE screen in front was showing a different flight number than what ours was. It actually was showing the flight number of this aircraft that came in from Vancouver earlier this morning. As we taxied out, I was able to see the newest airline that's serving Toronto Pearson, Aerojet, which is an airline from the Dominican Republic. At the end of Air Canada's very cool safety video, we had reached the edge of the runway. Enjoy the takeoff. 1-minute takeoff roll, we were in the air and powering out over the northwest part of the Greater Toronto Area and the city of Brampton. We made a sharp right turn and up through the clouds, westbound to Vancouver. I settled in for a nice nap as the beautiful Canadian landscape passed below us. When I woke up, we were about halfway to Vancouver, flying over the city of Regina, Saskatchewan. As I looked down from the window at the city I'd visited many times, I was very lucky to catch an Air Canada 737 about 1,000 feet below us. Now that I was awake, I decided to have a look at Air Canada's Buy On Board menu. Some interesting items on here, but I was still full from the breakfast I had back in the lounge in Toronto. So I just had an orange juice and watched the changing landscape below. As we approached the Rockies, the turbulence got quite intense and I thought my drink was going to spill. We had hit the leading edge of a massive storm that was pounding Vancouver with torrential rain. This unfortunately meant no view of the mountains as we flew over British Columbia. The clouds were very thick and quite low, so you could see nothing on descent into Vancouver at all. Normally I would say enjoy the landing, but there's not much to see this time around. We touched down safely on runway 8 left, 4 hours and 27 minutes after we departed from Toronto. I had to wait until the very end to deplane since I was sitting in the back. But soon I was off the plane and I made my way through the domestic arrivals process, down through baggage claim, and outside to where my Uber driver was waiting. Welcome to a very rainy Vancouver.